I still remember the way she said it. Calm. Detached. Like she was ordering a coffee, not ending 10 years of marriage. I want a divorce, Lisa said, crossing her arms. And the house. You can't afford a lawyer to fight me. Her voice was cold, not angry, not emotional, just done. I looked up from the broken faucet I'd been fixing and met her gaze. You're right, I said simply. No shouting. No begging. No drama. Just silence, the kind that makes people uncomfortable because they expect a fight and get calm instead. She blinked, caught off guard. Maybe she expected me to crumble, to plead for another chance. But I'd already seen this coming. The late nights at work, the constant secrecy with her phone, the perfume that didn't smell like hers. I knew. I just didn't have the energy to confront it anymore. That night, I packed my clothes into the guest room. She didn't even ask why. Maybe she thought it was guilt. Maybe she thought she'd already won. The weeks that followed were quiet, painfully so. She'd come home late, humming to herself, smelling of expensive wine and another man's cologne. I didn't say a word. One morning, I found a stack of papers on the kitchen counter. Divorce papers. Neat, professional, heartless. The note on top said, "You can sign these now or after court. It's your choice." I smiled to myself. After court, I whispered. I didn't have money for a lawyer, she was right about that. My job barely covered rent, and she'd always handled most of the finances. But I had something she didn't: family. My older brother, Daniel, was one of the best attorneys in the city. We hadn't spoken in years, not since our parents' funeral. Life and pride had gotten in the way. But when I called him and explained everything, he didn't hesitate. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "Family doesn't pay family. Just show up." That was all. I didn't tell Lisa. Let her think she'd already beaten me. The morning of the court date, she arrived in a sleek black suit, hair perfectly styled, smile sharp enough to cut glass. Beside her stood a tall man in an expensive navy suit, her lawyer. One of the city's most feared. The kind of man who could make a judge question gravity if paid enough. She looked at me as I walked in, plain suit, cheap shoes, no lawyer in sight. Her lips curved into a smirk. "You really came alone?" I shrugged. "Not exactly." Her lawyer rolled his eyes and leaned toward her. "This will be quick." They sat. The judge entered. The clerk began to read. Then, the door at the back of the courtroom opened, and Daniel walked in. Calm. Confident. Carrying a single folder. He walked straight to my table, put his hand on my shoulder, and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Don't worry, little brother. I've got this." The room went silent. Lisa's smile vanished. Her lawyer turned pale. "Wait, your brother," she stammered. Daniel turned to her and smiled politely. "Yes, Mrs. Collins. And from this moment on, I'd advise you to choose your words very carefully." The judge cleared his throat, trying not to smile. And for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The air in that courtroom changed the second Daniel sat down beside me. He didn't raise his voice, didn't even open his folder right away. He just looked at Lisa's lawyer, that smug, $1,000 grin melting by the second, and nodded as if to say, "Let's begin." Lisa's attorney stood, his voice loud and confident. "Your Honor, this case is quite straightforward. My client is seeking a fair divorce settlement. The house, the vehicle, and half of Mr. Collins' savings." Daniel interrupted softly, not even looking up. "Half of what savings?" The lawyer blinked. "Excuse me?" Daniel finally lifted his eyes, calm and sharp as glass. "You said half of his savings. But the account you're referring to, joint, opened 5 years ago, was emptied by your client 2 months before filing this case." He pulled out a single sheet of paper. "We have bank statements confirming every transfer, including the payments to a certain consultant named Patrick Reeves. Would you like us to call him in as a witness?" Lisa's face went pale. Her attorney stammered, flipping through his notes. Daniel didn't look angry. He looked entertained. Like he was playing chess with a man who'd brought checkers. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Mrs. Collins, do you have an explanation for these withdrawals?" Lisa tried to speak, but the words tangled in her throat. Daniel continued smoothly. "Your Honor, my client isn't contesting the divorce. He's contesting the attempt to defraud him. My brother made every payment on that house. The mortgage, the maintenance, the utilities, all from his personal account, while Mrs. Collins contributed, let's see." He flipped a page. One transfer of $120 labeled birthday decorations. The courtroom broke into muffled laughter. Lisa's lawyer tried to recover. "Your Honor, my client handled the domestic responsibilities." Daniel cut him off again, polite but firm. "And my brother handled every bill, every payment, every repair. Let's not confuse household management with financial contribution." He turned a page and placed another document on the judge's desk. In fact, here's proof Mrs. Collins listed herself as single on a rental application 3 months before filing for divorce. She was planning this long before she told him. Lisa finally snapped. That doesn't mean anything. I was just preparing. Daniel smiled slightly. Yes, I'm sure you were. I sat there in silence, my hands trembling slightly under the table. I didn't need to say a word. My brother was saying everything I'd wanted to for months, only better. For years, I thought silence made me weak. But sitting there, watching him dismantle her lies with calm, surgical precision, I realized something. Silence just means you're waiting for the right moment to speak. Lisa's lawyer started sweating. He tried to object, to twist the facts, to recover some ground, but Daniel had an answer for everything. He'd done his homework. Every hidden transfer, every late-night withdrawal, every unexplained receipt, all laid bare before the court. By the end of the session, Lisa wasn't smirking anymore. Her lawyer looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. When the judge adjourned for the day, Daniel closed his folder, stood, and said quietly to me, "She thought she could bury you, but all she did was dig her own hole." I nodded, still stunned. "You didn't have to do all this." He smiled faintly. "Yes, I did. That's what brothers are for." As we left the courtroom, I caught Lisa's eyes. She looked furious, not because she was losing, but because she finally realized she'd underestimated me. She thought I was broke. She thought I was alone. She never imagined the man walking into court beside me would be my greatest advantage. When the second day of the hearing began, Lisa walked in wearing a new suit, navy blue, expensive, desperate. She didn't even look at me this time. Her confidence from yesterday was gone, replaced with the kind of tension you can smell in the air, like burnt wires right before something explodes. Daniel leaned over and whispered, "Today's the fun part." He said it calmly, but I saw the gleam in his eyes, the one I remembered from our childhood when he was about to beat someone twice his size in chess. Lisa's lawyer started with a new approach. "Your Honor," he said, "my client's emotional distress during this marriage should also be taken into account. Mr. Collins neglected her needs, forcing her to seek emotional support elsewhere." Daniel smiled faintly. "Elsewhere? You mean from Mr. Reeves?" The lawyer froze. "Excuse me?" Daniel stood, unfolding a single document. "Patrick Reeves. The so-called business consultant Mrs. Collins has been transferring money to for 6 months. He's not a consultant. He's a photographer. And a rather romantic one, judging by the hotel invoices under both their names." The courtroom went silent. Even the judge leaned back, eyebrows raised. Lisa's hand shot up. "That's not true. He's just a friend." Daniel didn't even look at her. "Then perhaps your friend accidentally signed a hotel receipt in your handwriting? Or maybe the matching room service orders were just a coincidence." He placed the receipts on the judge's bench. Dates, times, room numbers, all neatly aligned with every supposed girls' night your client told my brother she attended. I watched Lisa crumble, piece by piece. Her face went from denial to rage to a kind of hollow numbness, the same look people get when they realize their story has run out of words. Her lawyer looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. He stammered, "Your Honor, this information was not disclosed." The judge raised a hand. "It is now. Proceed." Daniel turned to Lisa, his tone colder now. "You wanted the house so badly, Mrs. Collins. But I'm curious, did your friend know that it's not worth much without the mortgage insurance my brother paid for? Did he know you tried to refinance it in your name before filing for divorce?" Lisa's jaw dropped. Her lawyer whispered something urgent, but she shook her head, eyes wide. How did you?" Daniel's lips curved slightly. "You used my brother's email for years. You forgot it was linked to the bank account. Every time you applied for something under his name, he got notified." Her hands trembled. "You read my emails?" He didn't even flinch. "No. He didn't. I did. Legally." The judge coughed, hiding a smirk. Lisa turned toward me at last, eyes burning with humiliation and anger. "You think this makes you better than me?" I looked at her for a long moment. "No, Lisa," I said quietly. "It just proves I finally stopped being blind." For a second, she looked like she wanted to say something, maybe an apology, maybe an insult. But nothing came. Just silence. Daniel gathered the papers, calm as ever. "Your Honor," he said, "we request that the house and assets remain solely in my client's name. Mrs. Collins' financial conduct and infidelity make it clear she pursued this marriage in bad faith." The judge nodded slowly. "I'll take that under consideration." Outside the courtroom, Daniel loosened his tie and sighed. "You know," he said, "I thought I was going to enjoy that more." I smiled faintly. "You didn't?" He shrugged. "Watching someone destroy themselves isn't satisfying. It's just sad. For the first time, I realized he was right. I didn't feel triumph. Just a quiet kind of peace. The kind that comes after a storm, when all that's left to do is rebuild. The courtroom was quiet that morning, the kind of quiet that feels like the air itself is holding its breath. Lisa sat a few feet away, shoulders stiff, eyes red from a night of crying or anger, probably both. Her expensive lawyer was whispering frantically, but I could tell he'd already given up. You can always tell when a man knows he's lost, the fight drains out of his voice first. The judge shuffled through a stack of papers and finally looked up. After reviewing all evidence, he began, including financial statements, communications, and testimony, this court finds in favor of Mr. Collins. Lisa gasped. Her lawyer opened his mouth, but the judge continued before he could object. The marital home will remain solely under Mr. Collins' ownership. Mrs. Collins' claims of financial dependency are invalidated by the evidence of independent assets and unauthorized withdrawals from joint accounts. Divorce is granted effective immediately, without alimony. The sound of the gavel hitting would echoed like thunder. It was over. Lisa sat frozen, staring straight ahead. Her perfect mask had cracked, revealing something raw beneath, not sadness, not even guilt. Just shock. Daniel stood, calmly gathering his papers. "Thank you, Your Honor," he said with the same composure he'd had from day one. As we turned to leave, Lisa whispered, "You set me up." I stopped at the doorway, turned slightly, and met her eyes. "No," I said quietly. "You set yourself up. I just stopped protecting you from the truth." Her eyes filled with tears, not the kind that come from heartbreak, but the kind that come from realizing you've run out of people to blame. Outside the courthouse, Daniel lit a cigarette and exhaled slowly. "You okay?" I nodded. "Better than I expected." He smiled faintly. "You know, I thought this would feel like revenge. But it doesn't. It just feels right." "Yeah," I said. "It's not about winning. It's about finally being free." We stood there for a minute, watching people rush past, lawyers, clients, strangers. Then he put out his cigarette and clapped me on the shoulder. "Next time, pick someone who doesn't make you call me." I laughed for the first time in months. Deal. That night, I went back to the house, my house, and sat on the porch as the sun went down. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt peaceful. I thought about Lisa, how she'd walked away thinking she'd taken everything. But in the end, she'd only lost what mattered most: trust, love, and the chance to walk away with dignity. I didn't need revenge. Karma had already drawn up the paperwork.